partly is basically cross-border kind of support group, organisation, charity, whatever you want to call it, to support both the campaigns in the south of Ireland and the north for marriage equality, and basically LGBT rights in general. So we kind of formed it because I noticed specifically there was a bit of a gap between the campaigns in the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland in terms of both communities engaging and communicating with the two campaigns. One's being run via a referendum in the south, and one here going, unfortunately, via the courts, because the Assembly hasn't been able to pass the legislation, and I don't think it will. But there has been a bit of a noticeable gap in terms of canvassing, in terms of communication, and just press. There's been too much of a gap, and for two identical campaigns that are being run, one up here, one down there, it doesn't make sense to me or a lot of people that there wasn't any engagement. Now, there may be behind the scenes, but publicly I can't see any of that. And not to discredit the two campaigns, they're doing a fantastic job, and I'm sure they're snowed under. So this is why we started this campaign, to give them that support and say the things that they can't say, and raise the awareness that they don't have time to raise, because we can do this whenever we want, whereas they're tied down with their other jobs as well. Basically, our aim is to see full marriage equality implemented across the island, regardless of your citizenship, regardless of your political affiliation, whether unionist, nationalist, neither, or you just don't care. I'm an Irish citizen and a British citizen, and for someone who has dual citizenship on this island, it's not unheard of. It doesn't make sense to me that if I was living with somebody who was living in Dundalk and I lived in Belfast, we could be married in one part of the island and not the other. To me, that doesn't make sense. So, I mean, I know of people who have those relationships and will be married in one jurisdiction where they're a citizen and not in another where they're also a citizen. So it's grossly unfair, and I think it's something that needs to be addressed, and this campaign aims to help facilitate that. You don't have to look much further than the likes of Paul Given or Edwin Poots. Not to disparage their character, but I mean, they're entitled to their beliefs, they're entitled to their religious beliefs, and I have no problem with that. The difference is whenever that starts to impinge on legislation for people who aren't Christian, and people who are specifically LGBT, they're still okay with the fact that gay people can't get married, and they quote scripture to back that up. And they're perfectly entitled to do that, but then you have a discrepancy in the law where we don't have parity of esteem, and for a party that considers themselves to be the most British party of all the British parties there is, they're British when it suits them. And I think Councillor Julianne Corr of the PUP mentioned as well in a recent documentary that she is openly gay and is married. Well, she's civilly partnered, and she pays the same taxes, obeys the same laws as people in England, Scotland and Wales, and yet her and her wife don't have the same rights as people here, and neither do I. And that's because of British politicians who have denied us access to those rights. We have those rights are ours. We just can't access them, and that's wrong. That's no other way to put it. It's not. I wouldn't say bigotry. I'd hate to use that term bigotry because it's quite a charged word, but it's easy to see why people use those words when they are up against that kind of divisiveness and those barriers that are put in place. I mean, read the legislation. The examples that Paul Given gives in terms of a Muslim printer being able to refuse, or not being able to refuse, a lesbian coffee table maker from printing brochures. He thinks that's a more specific example and real life example than someone who wants to get a taxi or buy a house. This is the kind of thing we're dealing with here, and it's clear he hasn't even read his own legislation. He quoted on The View on BBC that it would stop a heterosexual couple who were unmarried from accessing goods and services, thinking that somehow that would make his point more, friendly, when yet he's alienated unmarried straight couples that the bill doesn't affect. So he clearly hasn't read his own legislation. So I have no doubt in my mind this will be torpedoed in the Assembly by Sinn Féin, the SDLP, Alliance, hopefully the UUP, and other MLAs. They're involved in this. I'm not even convinced that a lot of the DUP MLAs are on board with this, because a lot of them have been very quiet, bar those who are, let's just say, running for certain elections. Yeah, it's really frustrating whenever you have politicians who are responsible for health and social services in this country who disregard scientific evidence. Recently there was a piece of information requested by BBC that was then published by Rainbow Project, that there was no evidence that DHSSPS had to back up the lifetime ban on gay and bisexual men, or men who have sex with men, from donating blood. 12-month deferral is the standard in England, Scotland and Wales. I don't agree with that. That's still a ban in my eyes, because asking men to not be sexually active for a year in order to donate blood is frankly ridiculous. But it's just gay blood isn't a thing. Blood is blood, and to deny somebody the right to donate blood to save a life, it's monstrous. Whether they're basing that on religion, whether they're basing that on some kind of skewed scientific belief, I don't know. I hate to use the term hate figure for Edwin Poots. He's no longer health minister, and we now have the very progressive and liberal Jim Wells at the helm, who has said he'll continue to fight the blood ban. And the disgusting thing about that is that they're using public money to fund that. There's been over £40,000 of taxpayers' money that's been used to fight this discriminatory ban, or uphold the ban, when we have A&Es being closed, we have funding cuts for nurses, doctors, and this is my money. I pay taxes, and he's using this money to fund the ban against me being able to donate blood, or people like me being able to donate blood. And it doesn't just affect gay men, it's women who have had sex with men who have sex with men. It's people who have ever done that, even if it's protected sex. For instance, a man who is straight, who has unprotected sex with 100 women, can donate blood freely. If I have protected sex once with a man, banned for life. You don't have to look very far to see how ridiculous that is, considering every drop of blood is screened. I'm not a doctor, but I know that's ridiculous. I mean, even in the time since I came out in 2008, and that was around the time of the whole Irish Robinson comments about gay cure therapy, that kind of thing. And even since then, there's been a huge change in attitudes. I think the equal marriage movements across the United States, Britain, even Europe, and now the Republic of Ireland have really changed people's minds as to how they view gay people. And not just gay people, even Northern Ireland is one of the best places in the world to be transgender. We have some of the most comprehensive and strongest equality laws when it comes to transgender rights, and that's something that we should be very proud of. Unfortunately, we are seen as a very backward country because of the people who represent us. But that again is changing. We have, for the first time ever in Belfast City Hall, we have gay elected reps from across the political spectrum. We have unionists and we have nationalists who are openly LGBT and serving as elected councillors. It's only a matter of time before we have gay MLAs. It's only a matter of time before we have a gay First Minister. Well, touch wood. But it's definitely getting better. There's no way I can see this getting worse for us. We can't remain in a bubble when it comes to this kind of thing. LGBT people are a part of society as anybody else. We drive your ambulances, we teach your kids, we man your shops, we police the streets, and we pay taxes, we obey the law, and to ask to be treated as equal citizens isn't something that I think is unreasonable. And more and more people are starting to understand that that's not an unreasonable request at all. Gone are the days where it was save us from sodomy, and now it's all you have to do is look at the Belfast Pride Parade. It's the largest pride parade on the whole island, including Dublin, and it gets bigger every year. You should be able to love whoever you want to love, and be proud in doing it. You should be able to hold your partner's hand going down the street, whether you're a woman holding hands with a man or a man holding hands with another man. It shouldn't be a factor in how you're viewed by society as to how you love someone or who you love. And to be able to form a relationship and have your relationship acknowledged by your society and your family and your church and your government is one of the fundamental tenets of being a person, never mind being LGBT. So we hope to have people on the streets canvassing for the upcoming referendum in the south. We hope to be in contact and be able to support the ongoing court case with the equal marriage in Northern Ireland. However we do that is yet to be decided. We have a core team of about 5 people from Belfast to Dublin, and hoping to extend that from all across the island. And say nationality isn't an issue here. Political opinion isn't an issue here. If you want to see equal marriage implemented in Northern Ireland, then by all means get in touch with us. You can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Twitter, and get in touch. If you want to volunteer, we're more than happy to have you on board. So watch this space.